Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm so excited because I'm finally going to be trying the Rawbeautykristi and Colourpop at Foresight collection. I did actually purchase this when it was first released, which was before Thanksgiving, but unfortunately I did have a pretty bad knee injury, so that's why this video was going up as late as it is. I couldn't film anything up until today, so I'm back to filming and I'm so excited. I'm just gonna try everything on and talk about it as I go. So yeah, I'm gonna zoom you in a little bit closer. I'm gonna go ahead and prime my lids with my Milani eyeshadow primer. This is the only eyeshadow primer that I've been using lately besides the Urban Decay Primer Potion every once in a while. They do almost the exact same thing. I can't really tell that much of a difference. So let's start off with the At Foresight eyeshadow palette. I love how bold the shades are in here. Just every detail of this collection is so beautiful. I'm first gonna dip into this shade right here. This is called Chanterelle, and I'm gonna apply that into the crease. I'm a little rusty, by the way, not just with filming, but with eyeshadow application or just makeup overall, because I hadn't worn makeup in a few weeks because of my knee injury. That was like the last thing on my mind, you guys. I just was not really in the mood for it because I was in so much pain. So I'm a little bit rusty with filming and with makeup application. So I'm gonna try my best to not make this look like a mess. That is such a beautiful shade. I love how mustardy it is. Next, I'm going to take the shade Puffball. I'm just going to take that same brush and I'm going to apply this onto the outer corners first. But I am going to be bringing it into the crease as well. I feel like everything in this palette is very cohesive. Like I'm not having a problem knowing what to pair. I'm just taking whatever's left on my brush and bringing it into the crease. Next, I'm going to take the shade Homegrown, and this is a deep reddish brown shade. So I'm going to deepen up the outer corners. I'm going to take this on a Morphe JH33 brush. Okay, that's really pretty. It is deepening up the outer corners, and it doesn't look as red as what I thought it would. It is a brown shade, but again, it does have a little bit of a reddish tone to it. And then just taking that Morphe M433 brush and lightly blending around the edges. And then I'm going to take the shade West Coast, which is that gold metallic shade. And I'm going to apply this all over the lid with my finger. So that is 2 layers of that eyeshadow with my finger. I didn't even have to wet this eyeshadow, and it looks very, very intense. And then with that Morphe M433 brush, just gonna lightly blend around the edges. So I think I'm going to use one of the Super Shock shadows as an eyeshadow topper. I did already try the shades Campfire and Mycellium. I did have a little bit of an issue with the shade Campfire. The formula of this feels a little too creamy, which I know sounds really weird. I'm wondering if maybe I got a defective one because this one feels completely different from the other Super Shock shadows and just any Super Shock shadow that I've tried before. I did play with this shade yesterday and I actually posted a look with this shadow on my Instagram, but I ended up going over top of it with Mycellium, which I do really like. It is a really pretty shade, and this is actually one of the ones that I was the most excited for in this collection, but unfortunately I am pretty disappointed in it. And again, I might have just gotten a defective one. I'm not exactly sure, so let me know if you've tried this shade and if you've had the same issues. This is such a beautiful shade. I was really excited about this because I love orangey coppery shades like this, but I feel like it just dries down too patchy, and I did try to build it up and it ended up looking worse. Mycelium does feel like the other Super Shock shadows that I've tried. This one did look really beautiful all over the lid. Maybe I'll try the shade Olympic today. Olympic looks more champagne. So I'm gonna swatch Olympic. Okay, yeah, this one feels like a typical Super Shock shadow. So here is Olympic. This does look a lot more silvery compared to Mycellium. Yeah, I think this one is a little too silvery for this look, but it's very beautiful. And then here's the shade Like a Moss. And this one I was so excited for as well. Let me go ahead and swatch it. Okay, this one feels a little bit like the Campfire shade. This must be a new formula within the Super Shock Shadow line, because this one does feel a lot like Campfire. It's just a little too creamy. So I'm gonna have to play around with Campfire and Like a Moss just to see if I need to change up my technique or something just to make them work, because they are the two shades that I was the most excited for when it comes to the Super Shock shadows. So yeah, for now, I'm gonna stick to the shade Mycelium, and I'm gonna apply a little bit of this right over top of that gold shade. I'm actually gonna focus it more towards the inner corners, and then just bring the rest onto the lid. Oh yeah, that looks really pretty. I know it changed up how gold the eye look is, but I really like it. So I'm just gonna do the rest of my makeup off camera, or maybe I'll just speed it up or something. So yeah, I'm gonna do that and I'll be right back. So this collection did come with 3 Creme Gel Liners, which are some of my favorite eyeliners that I've ever tried. These are very creamy, very pigmented. So I'm really glad that she included 3 of the Creme Gel Liners, and I love that they're all matte, because although I do like metallic eyeliners, I feel like they're not the most flattering in the waterline. They can sometimes make you look a little sick. So I'm really glad that she went with all matte. I feel like they complement the entire collection so well. So first we have the shade Marigold. Next is Woodsy. And then finally we have Spare Time. So I'm just gonna apply Spare Time on the lower waterline. I did 1 layer, but I'm gonna warm it up on the back of my hand because it's not gliding on super easily. I think maybe just because it's the first time that I'm using this shade. Okay, there we go. And I'm going a little bit underneath the lower lash line just as a base for the shadow that I'm gonna apply. Okay, that is such a beautiful shade. I don't think I have anything quite like it, at least not a matte version of that shade. On a Sigma E30 pencil brush, I'm gonna take the shade Emerald City. I'm gonna do one eye at a time so that I have time to blend the eyeliner. And I think I'm actually gonna bring that shade onto the upper lash line just to tie it in a little bit more. I'm just smudging it on the outer portion. This shade is so pigmented, and even after I blended it, it stayed pigmented, which doesn't always happen with shades like this. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of the shade Chanterelle, and I'm gonna apply that onto the lower lash line just to further blend out that Emerald City shade. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more Chanterelle into the crease as well. And then for my inner corners, I'm gonna take Mycelium. Okay, mascara is on. I did apply the Essence Lash Princess False Lash Effect mascara on my top lashes. And for my bottom lashes, I took the L'Oreal Voluminous Waterproof Mascara in the shade Black Brown. This is actually waterproof. This is the only waterproof mascara that has worked for my bottom lashes, at least from the ones that I've tried. I haven't tried that many, but this is my current favorite mascara combo. And then I also tight lined with the shade Woodsy. So there are 2 Luxe Lip Glosses in this collection. I hadn't actually tried this formula before. I'm pretty sure this is somewhat new. First we have the shade Glacier, and this is a clear gloss with a ton of shimmer. It looks like gold and maybe silver shimmer. And then the other shade is called Wildflower, and this is a pinky gloss. And this one also has gold shimmer, but it's a little bit more subtle. I can't see it on the lips as much as the Glacier shade. Honestly, I don't love this formula. I do prefer the Ultra Glossy Lip formula. They just don't give me that glossiness that I'm looking for. They are glossy, but just not as much as I would want them to be. So yeah, I don't love these, but I don't hate them either. I don't see myself purchasing any other shades in these. They just are not my favorite formula so far. So I am gonna apply both of these just so that you can see what the shades look like. I'm not gonna apply any lip liner just yet. And these do have a bit of a scent, but it's nothing overwhelming. It's like a little bit of a sweet vanilla scent. So I'm first gonna take the shade Glacier. This shade on me almost looks too frosty. I do prefer this one over top of a lip liner or a lipstick. And it does look pretty glossy right now, but after a while, maybe like 20 minutes or so, it just doesn't look as glossy. I think it's just the way it dries down and settles into the lip lines that it just doesn't look super flattering on me. So this one I would definitely pair with a lip liner or a lipstick. And even though it does have a ton of shimmer, it is finely milled, so it doesn't feel gritty on the lips. But I just don't love the feeling of this formula. It just feels a little bit heavy on the lips. So that is the shade Glacier. And then next we have the shade Wildflower. My lips are super dry right now, so these do emphasize the dryness on my lips, even though they do feel moisturizing. I think it's just the way they dry down and just, it's a very thick gloss, that's for sure. This shade, I feel like it just doesn't flatter my skin tone. It looks a little too pastel pinky on my lips. And even though this one has shimmer as well, it's not as obvious on the lips. I feel like you can't tell right away. Like you have to get really close to see the shimmer. So Glacier is definitely a lot more shimmery. So I don't love these lip glosses. I definitely wouldn't buy any more shades in these, but I'm just gonna keep them in my purse to just reapply throughout the day whenever I go out. So yeah, which is not very often lately. I'm gonna take this Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink lipstick in the shade Chai Genius. And I'm gonna apply that with my finger, I think. I'm still gonna take the shade Glacier and I'm gonna apply this with my finger just so that I don't contaminate the tube. I think the things that stand out to me the most in this collection, or at least the things that I loved the most so far, are definitely the At Forest Sight eyeshadow palette and the eyeliners. These are so creamy, so pigmented. I love Colourpop's formula. These are probably my favorite thing out of this entire collection besides the eyeshadow palette. This formula feels the same as other Colourpop palettes. I don't really see a difference. The shades that I tried so far did perform as well as what I expected them to. I feel like Colourpop is pretty consistent when it comes to their palettes. I never see a huge difference in terms of formula, so I love this palette. I love the shades in here, and of course the illustration is so beautiful. The Super Shock shadows, I do really like the shades Mycellium and Olympic. Is that what they're called? Yeah, these two shades are my favorite out of these Super Shock shadows. I am a little bit disappointed in Campfire and Like a Moss. Like I said, I did try the shade Campfire all over the lids yesterday, and I didn't like the way it dried down. It just looked a little bit patchy, and it just wasn't as reflective as what I want it to be. I know it's supposed to be more of a glittery finish, but it does look pretty metallic and glittery when I swatch it, but once I apply it to my lids, it just dries down kind of weird, and I think that's just because it's such a wet formula. I do have quite a few shades of the Super Shock shadows, but none of them feel as creamy or wet as Campfire and Like a Moss. Like a Moss I haven't worn on my lids yet, but just from swatching it, it does feel pretty much identical to Campfire. So far, I do prefer the shades Olympic and Mycelium because these are very glittery and very metallic, which is what I prefer in my Super Shock shadows. I do like using these as eyeshadow toppers. And then finally, the Luxe Lip Glosses. These, again, I don't love, but I don't hate either. I wouldn't purchase any new shades in these. I'm pretty okay with having just these two shades. It does look really pretty over top of a lipstick or a lip liner, especially the shade Glacier. I don't really like the shade Wildflower, to be honest. This is a little too pastel pinky for me. It almost looks a little too frosty on my lips, so I do prefer the shade Glacier. So I think that is everything for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe if you'd like to, and if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!